this section, we're going to talk about graphs and intercepts. Intercepts, meaning where does your graph touch the x-axis, where does it intercept the x-axis, and maybe the y-intercept, where does it intercept the y-axis. Notice in the graph below that the line crosses the x-axis at the point 4, 0. We call the point where the graph crosses the x-axis an x-intercept. Notice that the x-intercept will always have a y value of 0. We went over 4, but we didn't go up or down at all, so it remained on the x-axis. So when y is 0, we have an x-intercept. Notice that the line below also crosses the y-axis at the point 0, 3. We call the point where the graph crosses the y-axis a y-intercept. Notice that the y-intercept will always have an x-coordinate of 0, right? In order to be able to stay on top of the y-axis, I have to go over nothing. I have to go up or down, but my x-coordinate has to be 0. So when my x-coordinate is 0, I know that's where it's going to cross the y-axis, or the y-intercept. So if I give you a picture, could you determine the x and the y-intercepts? Well, you notice this is not a linear graph anymore. This looks like kind of an oval-shaped graph, right? But doesn't it intersect the x-axis and the y-axis, have an x-intercept and a y-intercept? Well, it actually has two of each, right? I have x-intercepts here, and I have y-intercepts here. Now they're points, so we need to make sure that we write them as points. So where does this oval touch the x-axis? Well, I noticed that it touched at the point 3, 0 and -3, 0. It also had a y-intercept at 0, 6 and 0, -6. Intercepts are points, so we need to make sure that we write them in ordered pairs. All right, that was kind of easy because the graph was already given to us, and all we had to do was notice where it touched the x and y axis and then write them as points. So let's talk about a few questions about intercepts. Do you think every graph has an x-intercept? Do you think every graph touches the x-axis? If not, could you draw me an example? What about this? Doesn't a horizontal line never touch the x-axis? So sometimes I might not have an x-intercept, right? That horizontal line is an example. So do you think every graph has a y-intercept? Well, what about a vertical line? A vertical line is never going to go over there and touch the y-axis, so maybe there are lines that don't have a y-intercept. Okay, what is the most amount of x-intercepts that a linear graph can have? We saw that an oval has a couple, but what about a line? How many times can a line touch the x-axis? And now lines are straight line. What about once? I have a line, it touches once, maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down, but it's a straight line and maybe it only touches my x-axis once. Could it touch it more than once? Now remember, it can't go up and swoop back down because that wouldn't be a line anymore. What about this? What if the line happened to be on top of the x-axis? Well, then how many times does it touch? Doesn't it intersect the x-axis all the time, so it has infinite x-intercepts? Kind of interesting. So I think that's the only two options. We can either be on top of the x-axis and have infinite intercepts, or maybe it only touches once. But I don't think you could have two or more because then my line wouldn't be straight anymore. Same idea with the y's, right? I can have one y-intercept, or I can be a vertical line on top of the y-axis and have infinite y-intercepts. Kind of interesting. We're going to talk in the next video about how to figure out where those x and y intercepts are, maybe if they don't give us a picture this time.